Good evening, underneath the stars. Remember me? My name is Jacob Cracker, deceased. Normally you would see me wandering around with my tombstone, getting ready to tell you stories of the slightly spooky nature. However, due to circumstances outside of my control, I cannot be with you this evening. And for that, I am almost prostrate with grief. However, I have popped up here because I want to tell you one story. One story that I hope you will join in. Now, I know that the small people down the front here will join in with gusto, and there will be barking and there will be screaming. But I expect you big people right at the back, trying to ignore me, to also join in. It can get very loud, I hope. For this is the story of the Hobbyars. Now, once upon a time, many miles away, there was a huge forest, and in the huge forest there was a very big cornfield, and in the middle of the big cornfield there was a tiny small house. And in the tiny small house there lived a little old lady and a little old man. They also had a very small dog. A small dog called Little Dog Turpie. Now, Little Dog Turpie, he slept out at night outside the front door, keeping watch over the cornfield and over the little old man and the little old lady. All was peace and harmony in the cornfield. Until one night, into the forest, there moved some Hobbyars. Now, for those that don't know, Hobbyars are very small green creatures. They have very sharp teeth. They have very long pointy fingers that they like to poke. And they are not very nice at all. Now, on the night they moved in to the forest, they came out of the forest, tiptoeing quietly into the cornfield, poking their fingers as they went. Poke. And they said, "Hobbyar, Hobbyar, Hobbyar. Look at me. We're going to the house of the little old man and the little old lady. And we're going to eat them." But outside the front door of the little house was Little Dog Turpie, and he saw the Hobbyars, and he barked very loudly. The Hobbyars were terrified, and they screamed. And they ran back to their house in the forest. But the little old man, he was furious. He said, Little Dog Turpie, how can I rest and how can I sleep when you're making so much noise? I will fix you in the morning." And the very next morning, the little old man took Little Dog Turpie and he stuffed him in a barrel. But that night, out of the forest came the Hobbyars. And when they came out of the forest, they came out creeping with their pokey fingers. Poke. And they said, Hobbyar, look at me. We're going to house of the little old man and the little old lady. And we're going to eat them. But even in his barrel, Little Dog Turpie could hear them, and he barked. And the Hobbyars were so scared, they screamed. And they ran back to their little house, back in the forest. But the little old man was furious. He said, Little Dog Turpie, how can I rest and how can I sleep when you're making so much noise? I will fix you in the morning. And the very next morning, he took the barrel with Little Dog Turpie in it, and he put it in a huge, big wooden chest, and he locked it. But that night, out of the forest came the Hobyahs, and they crept out with their pokey fingers. Poke, 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 poke. They said, Hobyah, Hobyah, Hobyah. Look at me, look at me, look at me. We're going to the house of the little old man and the little old lady. And we're going to eat them. But even in his box, in his barrel, little dog Turpy, he could smell them. And he barked. And the Hobyahs were terrified, and they screamed. And they ran back to their house, back in the forest. The little man was furious. He said, little dog Turpy, how can I rest and how can I sleep when you're making so much noise? I will fix you in the morning. And the very next morning, he took the chest with the barrel with little dog Turpy in it, went to the well and dropped the box down the well. That night, out of the forest, came the Hobyahs, and they crept out of the forest. Poke, 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 poke. And they said, Hobyah, Hobyah, Hobyah. Look at me, look at me, look at me. We're going to the house of the little old man and the little old lady. And we're going to eat them. And there was no little dog Turpy. The Hobyahs burst into the house. The little old man, he shot up the chimney. But the little old lady was too late. The Hobyahs grabbed her with their big, long, pokey fingers, and they stuffed her into a sack. And they put the sack over their shoulders, and they carried the sack back to the house in the forest. They hung it up on a hook, and they poked it for good measure. Poke, 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 poke. And they went upstairs to bed. The little old man, back in the house, he got out of the chimney. Oh, oh, he said, oh my word, the poor little old lady. They've taken her. Oh, what have I done? What have I done? He ran to the well and he wound up the bucket. He took out the big chest and he unlocked it. He took out the barrel and he smashed it on the floor. And out of the barrel jumped little dog Turpy. Hurrah! Little dog Turpy barked. And he ran to the house in the forest. When he got there, he sneaked inside and he saw the sack. He took one claw and he made a small hole in the sack. And the little old lady got out of the hole in the sack. She said, thank you, dear little dog Turpy. And she ran back to the house in the cornfield. But little dog Turpy, he got into the sack. That night, down the stairs came the Hobyahs. Creep, 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 poke, poke, poke. They said, Hobyah, Hobyah, Hobyah. Look at me, look at me, look at me. We are having little old lady for tea. And they poked the sack. And out jumped little dog Turpy. And he ate every single Hobyah up. Now, back in the house, in the cornfield, in the forest, the little old lady sleeps peacefully in bed. And on the bed sleeps little dog Turpy. But outside the front door sleeps the little old man. Because no one's told him there are no more Hobyahs left in the world at all. And that is your story. Thank you very much indeed. I will be back with you next year. I can't wait to see you all again, and I will tell you many, many more stories. In the meantime, sleep tight, enjoy the music, enjoy the wonderful festival that is Underneath the Stars, and I will see you again very, very soon.